right, ladies, I am super excited. It's me, your girlfriend, Coach Cherie. I'm the woman that loves women. I'm an empowerer of women. I am a challenger to women, and I'm super excited that I have a guest on here today. Her name is Kirstin Leigh. So, Kirstin is the CEO of Change Your Story, Inc., and the founder of Change Your Story Workshop. The Change Your Story Workshop is a trailblazing addiction recovery and personal development program. It offers a faith-based, scientifically sound, and holistic approach to breaking free from what is breaking you. Ooh, I just love that. And discovering how purpose is the key to breakthrough. She is recognized as an expert in the role of breakthrough and recovery. And Kirstin is also a sought out after speaker, best-selling author, screenwriter, and wellness coach. Basically, there is nothing that the woman does not do. My goodness. So welcome to the Zoom call, Kirstin Leigh. So Kirstin, as we get started, tell everybody all the things, where you're from and what you do, and really what kind of impact you want to make with women and why.
Well, thank you so much for that fabulous introduction. I have a lot to live up to now. And it is all God. I have just been a very good, disciplined vessel. We'll get into that later on. But yeah, it's all God. But the biggest impact, the Change Your Story workshop, it equips you with the tools it takes to live in the freedom that God provides. Everyone has God has a purpose for every single person, but there's usually so much stuff in the way that we have to dig through the junk, to discover it. And that purpose is what fulfills us. It's what saves us.
I love that. I love that you just said that it's tools that help dig people out. So I'm just curious, do you think that as women that we can de-emphasize the importance of tools and just say, oh, I'm just gonna pray it away, I'm gonna hope it away, I'm gonna manifest some stuff? What do you think?
I wish that was the case. It definitely was not the case for me. I have been a Christian my whole life. I'm originally from Kentucky, this really small town. I never fit in. I was constantly bullied, had some very turbulent relationships with authority figures. But despite all that, I had huge dreams, I was going to be a singer and an actress. I moved from Kentucky. I moved to New York City, as soon as possible. And I did some really cool and courageous things, but I had this backstory that was following me. We'll scoot up forward. If you would have told me that right when my career was going to happen, that I would just run away from all my dreams and my goals and what I had worked for my entire life, I would have told you that you were crazy. Alcohol had not become a habit, but it was not a problem, but it had become a habit. And when life just kept happening and happening, that habit became an addiction that stole years of my life. Now, I prayed about it. I wanted to stop. Well, let's be real. Sometimes I just wanted it to go away. I wanted to still be able to drink. But I prayed about that. I went to church. Later on, I truly wanted to stop, but I didn't know how. I knew I could stop drinking, but I did not know how I was going to deal with all the reasons I was. Because it's all about the why. Whatever, issues are, whether it's an addiction, a bad habit, people-pleasing, perfectionism, whatever it is that's in your way, it's all about the why. Why is it? And I knew I had to get to the root of every one of those issues. So yes, it takes tools and it takes prayer. It takes deliverance, but you still have to do the work. And honestly, there wasn't a program that fit all my needs. And so God, one of the reasons he saved my life was to birth one through me. And that's another story. But, the Change Your Story workshop is what I needed when my life needed a major rewrite. So yes, I believe that you need the tools it takes and you need prayer.
I love what you said too, that you wanted it out of your life, but you kind of just wanted it to go away.
Yeah.
Magic. Sometimes I just think that we as women, especially women who are believers, I understand that everybody watching this may not be a believer, but sometimes we just want to just pray it away and there's this magical wand, but you don't want to get in to use tools that God has given us we can overemphasize prayer, but to the exclusion of the importance of tools. So it's not one or the other, it's both, basically, is what you're
Absolutely.
saying. And because of everything that you've been through, like, why do you think that your work, Change Your Story, is significant and it's important?
You said so many wonderful things I want to touch on. One, society in general, we want the quick fix. We have a microwave mentality. We want it done. We want a pill to stop everything. It just doesn't work that way. It does take work. Um, Romans 12:2. We are transformed by the renewing of our mind. That renewing takes work. Those are the tools. I didn't know the tools. I didn't know. One of the biggest things I did was not drinking 20 to 30 beers a day, although that is at the top of the list. It is rewiring my brain, taking every
Mm.
thought captive, understanding why I'm thinking these things. It is not letting feelings be the boss of our life. Yes, we have to understand them, but we have to tell them to shut up sometimes. One of the unique attributes of the Change Your Story workshop is it doesn't promote living life in recovery mode. It does equip you with the tools it takes to live in the freedom God provides. That is what Romans 12:2 is all about. And, one of the unique aspects of my breakthrough is that everything I learned in acting, I used to break through from a decade of addictions. I broke down my life like an actor breaks down a scene. So by incorporating basic acting techniques, elements of story structure, I can empower women to rewrite their story into a powerful personal narrative. I hope that answered your question somewhat.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, you said so many, you said, like, you hit on some really important topics like feelings. So what do you say to someone who's like, "Well, wait a minute. My feelings are real. This is true. Like, something really did happen to me," because I want to empower people who they want to live beyond their feelings, but they find themselves in the vortex of the feelings.
Yeah, I mean, that was me for years. And just letting the memories and the what ifs and the regrets and the shame play over and over and over. The Bible says that whatever we think about, that is in our heart, that is what is going to happen. That's what we're going to walk in. The fact is that our actions stem from our beliefs. So if you believe something to be true, regardless if it is or not, you're going to act on that. And our
Mm.
feelings, for me, I suppressed all my feelings growing up. I suppressed them. I didn't allow myself to feel. I just kept on going. Well, when we do that, every single thing that you haven't dealt with, all the thoughts, all the feelings, everything, it's still in our body. It's still doing things to us. So yes, we have to understand them, but we have to go deeper because, I say we have to deal to heal, but when we try to do that, we start dwelling. And that's all the feelings and that's the stuff. So we stop at we stay at the dwelling point and we don't get to the rest of it because yes, oh, this is why I feel this way, but they cannot be the boss or you're never going to move forward. It's just a fact. If I only did things when I felt like them, there would be no books published. There would be no workshop. I can't tell you how many times I have written through the tears. I have written through pain. I have worked through this and let God work through me because I rarely ever feel like doing what I need to do. It's called discipline, and we have to get through that. But on the same note, yeah, we have to understand why we feel like we do. And sometimes it's so real. Other times we are seeing things based on a perception of the past that we haven't dealt with.
I love that. And so then as you really have done the work, we call it the work, the deep work, taking out the tools and making sure that you understand your feelings, not just suppressing them, because I always say this, I say feelings suppressed will be creatively expressed.
Oh, I love that. They will be expressed, and you do it never in the right way. Never.
Oh my gosh, at the wrong time. You're just like, somebody asks you a question and you go, "What?" And and it's like, "Whoa, wait a minute." I think Jim Cress says if it's hysterical, it's historical. So, but to your point about maybe I'm reacting based on something in the past. And there's a lot of women who, because of past hurts, because of pain, maybe because of present pain, they feel like they are just going through the motions. So how did you, like, with changing your story, using your experience from being an actress, discover your purpose? And what advice do you give to women who feel stuck? They don't feel fulfilled, and they're like, "Man, Kirsten, I want to change my story."
Yeah, a lot of people want to change their story, but they don't want to do the work. And the different thing is the people who do come to the Change Your Story workshop, who I'm sure, work with you, they do want to change. I mean, I remember going back to what you said a minute ago, when I first stopped drinking, I was having a conversation, I was out on a date, I was listening to this person talk, and I was just getting like inside, I started like shaking, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Am I hearing what they're really saying? Or am I hearing what authority figures in my past did that was wrong? And am I responding on that? So we really have to understand that's a thing and and ask ourselves the hard questions. To answer your next question, so God gave me a dream actually in the midst of my mess, where He was just saying, the plan I have for you is wilder than your imagination, but you've got to stop doing what you're doing so I can use you. You're the most positive person, but you have to stop what you're doing so I can use you. You have to trust me. Over and over, God was saying this. And I woke up and I'm like, okay, I know God is talking to me, but I'm a mess. I'm depressed. I have a 24-ounce spear beside my bed. I didn't get it. And then I realized that God was talking to the real me, the me buried beneath that mess. And that's one of the reasons He saved me, so I can bring that out in other people, the real person, because everything we have gone through, everything we've experienced has molded us. It has shaped us, but it's not who created us. And we have to get back to who created us. So after that dream, I would like to say I stopped drinking. I did it, but it was the catalyst in my breakthrough, my deliverance. I had to get to the why of all my issues, and there were so many, Cherie, so many. So for the next 2 years, all I did was research the world's best psychologists, the world's best neuroscientists, psychiatrists, the world's best thought leaders, best pastors. I would watch 5 different sermons a week. I wrote like crazy, just asking myself question after question. And if you ask enough questions, you will get to the root of the issues. I would sleep with headphones on, blaring praise music in my ears to counteract all of the lies I had been listening to, the what ifs and the regrets and the shame. We can listen to this voice for so long that we think it's ours, but it's not. It's the enemy's. And our lies can become our truth. They're not true, but they become our truth because it's what we believe. And then, as I said, my acting background proved to be a tremendous asset because I broke down my life like an actor breaks down a scene. Acting isn't about memorizing lines. It's about knowing who you are, deciding what you want, determining what's in the way, and making a decision. What am I going to do about this? If we follow that formula in life, it will change our story. So anyway, in those 2-year process, that's all I did. God delivered me during this. And then a couple weeks later, I had another dream, and it was all these insights and divine revelations and this wisdom. And after a couple hours, I'm like, God, are you wanting me to create a new type of addiction recovery program, a personal development program? And I felt him say, not today. I'm like, great, I can barely walk. Well, that was 15 years ago. So the Change Your Story workshop is a strategic 9-week program for what took me years to discover.
I love that. And I just love what you said, how God spoke to the real you. And then earlier, you said you are not about people just living in the recovery zone. So if
Yes.
you can kind of break down the real you versus the recovery you to help people understand what's the difference.
That is a great question. And I've actually talked about this a lot. They've never been asked, just like you phrased that. The recovery mode is when you are still living in that place. You're saying you're recovered, but it's 10 years from then. You haven't done these things. No, it's like we need the tools it takes, and then we need to move on. Once I dealt with all of the issues that was making me drink, not making me, but I wanted to drink, not to think about them. Once I had dealt with those, it's like, okay, what now? What do you want from me right now, God? So instead of focusing on the thing, yeah, I messed up a lot of things. We do miss opportunities. But when we give it to God and surrender, He has a way of turning it around and using it for His good and doing something new. But we're not available for that new if we're still in that recovery mode, claiming those things over our life. It's no, I don't say, oh, I'm not in recovery. I am an overcomer by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. My mind has been transformed. We are a new creature in Christ. So that means taking all the wisdom we have gained and asking God, what do you want from me now? I remember a particular time after my breakthrough, I was writing in my journal. I'm like, God, I'm so sorry for wasting so much time. I'm so sorry for, he's like, you're wasting my time right now. And I was like, oh, yeah. And we waste so much time living in that, recovering. We get a victim mentality, and that's a big thing. One of the things that I work with people on is becoming the hero of their story. And that doesn't mean heroic. It just means embracing that God-given purpose. I say purpose is the key to breakthrough because it's bigger than everything. It's not about us. And when we grasp that, breaking free from the victim mode and being a villain of your own story, being self-sabotaging and being your worst enemy. It's so easy in the recovery mode to have that victim mentality. We've all been a victim of things, some, of course, worse than others. And I've been a victim of my own choices. But it's like, what's next? Let's get on to the good part, to the hero part. We can't stay in these places, and the world makes it very easy. I mean, there's a million talk shows just complaining about the problems living in that place. It's easy to complain, and people start right there with you. When you're positive, when you're moving forward, it's different because people aren't used to that. Be the change, be the difference.
I just love everything that you're saying, from making sure that, hey, what role are you going to play as a actress in your life? Is it the villain? Is it the hero? Is it the victim? Either way, here's the casting call, and you get to choose this day. I think about Joshua, whom you're going to serve, because you're going to serve a role whether you believe it or not.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. And
Yeah.
so when you were talking about the recovery mode versus the real you mode, it really does come down to a lot of identity issues. And I see identity is the foundation to everything, a lot of our issues. And I know that a lot of women, single women, married women, women in church, there are these core identity issues that women deal with that can fragment them, and it leads them to playing a role that God never intended them to play. So with that in mind, like, can you speak to identity and even being single in the church and expectations, and how you have made a personal decision to overcome even that?
So much good stuff. Oh my gosh. And yeah, I mean, I didn't know I was being the villain of my story when I was self-sabotaging my biggest dreams. I didn't know this, I didn't know that I was living in that victim mode when I would rehearse all the bad things I did. But once we know these things, we can change our story. We can move forward. And identity is, like you said, it is the key to everything. It is the base. It is the foundation. The first week in the Change Your Story workshop, it's all about identity and recognizing the cognitive dissonance in our mind. Like,
Mm.
who do you think you are? I have everyone write down who they think they are. Then we go to the Bible. Who does God say you are? When it doesn't match, we have to put a big
Mm.
red X on what we think. And usually we base what we think on our past experience, what other people have said to us, what other people have said about us, who we want to be, who we're not, but we don't truly know who we are according to God. And we have to discover who we are according to God. And we have to say these things and proclaim them until we believe them. Because when you're saying I'm an overcomer, and yet you know that you're going to be drinking as soon as you get those words out of your mouth, it feels like you feel fake. It feels like false language. But the Bible says to call those things forth that aren't as though they are. So if you don't think that you're a child of God, you don't think that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, you have to keep saying it and say it and say it until you believe it, because our beliefs will stem from our actions. And then as far as the cliches that the church has on being single, that the world has on being single, if you know who you are according to Christ, when you discover your God-given purpose and you're walking in that, it is a lot easier for those things not to bother you. Because the truth is, all the disciples except for Peter, they were single, right? Am I wrong? I think I'm right. They were all single. Single or married, you have to be know who you are and know what you're supposed to be doing according to Christ, his purpose for you, or else you're not going to be living to your full potential in your marriage, and you're not going to be living in your full potential as a single person. And we have to look at the advantages of being single. I mean, I pray for my kingdom partner every day, but do I let that guide me in what I no, I pray about it, and then I go on what God has for me doing right now. I have more time. One of the advantages of being single is time. Um, I can use my time. I'm not having to take care of somebody else. Not that you're taking care of when you're married, but you do have other, it is, you do have less time in certain senses. So to look at the advantages and again, not be, oh, I'm a victim, I'm single, I'm however years old. No, no. Know who you are and what God has called you to do, and you walk in that with confidence. And when you're doing that, what other people think don't matter as much. Sometimes they affect us, but you don't let it hinder you. You're like, and you keep on going. And you really have to ask yourself, do I want to hear, good job? Well done, my good and faithful servant. Do you want to hear good job from God, or are you more concerned and need to hear good job? We're proud of you from the church, from your brother, from your mom, from your dad, because that's when we are still have most issues that we want to deal with. And there were years where I thought I was good to go. When I first was pursuing acting in my pre-Change Your Story days, when I was doing Christian music, yeah, I wanted to do great things for God, but there was that little girl in me that still wanted to prove to the world, to my town that I left, to my dad. And we have to be done with that. We really have to. And that's what all the dealing with our issues, it frees us. It frees us to be who God truly made us to be.
I love that. And I love just what you're saying because women who are single can struggle with identity issues by thinking that, sometimes the church can treat women who are single like you're in a holding pattern, like you're Cinderella, you're just waiting for your prince to come. But then women who are married also have identity issues with kids because they can treat their spouse and their kids like they're their identity. What my kids do is now my identity. They got honor roll, I'm good. They didn't get honor roll, I'm awful. And so either way, wherever you find yourself, single, married, or in a relationship, we have to be so careful not to attach who we are based on someone else because it's a trap.
It is such a trap. And, I was speaking at a church on being single in a couple of weeks. And, one misconception too is, oh, they're single, poor thing, they're miserable. I know about 50 people and they're all single and they're all living in their purpose. Do they want that their partner? Yes, but they're doing amazing things. So, just because you're single doesn't, the misconception is that, oh, you're miserable, something's wrong. When people ask me why I'm single, it's very easy. Number one, I dated the wrong people. And I dated people that were like other authority figures in my life without realizing it. Then I was the wrong person, so I didn't date anybody. And then I was so focused on what God had for me that I didn't think about it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh. So there are many, many reasons why. And then, like you said, I know so many people who are married that their identity is exactly, it is their kids. It is their kids. It is their husband. And then when the kids leave, it's like, oh my gosh, who am I? Like, I want to know, God has a purpose and a plan for every single person. And it's not dependent on other people. Yes, we have to have people for our purpose 100%. And I pray those in. Um, but you also, it's not dependent on that other person. God has purposes for you with others and one on your own. And you have to know that. And you have to live in that because if not, you are lost when the kids go
Yes.
to school. If something
Yes.
happens to your husband, it's like, what? Where am I? I lost me. You work with this all the time. It's like when the kids go, the parents are like, oh, wow, do we know each other anymore? You really have to consciously and put that effort in to know that God has something for you at every stage. As long as we're breathing, God has a purpose for us.
I love that. I mean, because that was one of the biggest issues that I had when my son was diagnosed with special needs. I didn't understand how much my identity was wrapped up in my children's performance. I didn't even know that it was happening. It was so normal. And from when you have a baby, it's like, okay, are they meeting their milestones? And it's like, okay, we're good. And oh, okay, did they go to school? Or are they, are they excelling in class? But I did not even understand, whoa, what was happening until my son wasn't meeting milestones. And here I was, started feeling like a failure, less than, when the truth is that you're a woman, not a resource. I always say that your approval and value, it doesn't come from the people around you, it comes from the God in you. Like, that's where the value is, not based on what they do. Now, with that being said, we have our families, we love our families, we have our, family of origin and all of the things. And because of the enmeshing with other people, we can find ourselves getting caught up in the vortex of family drama, not trauma, but drama, and old generational patterns that really keep women from stepping out into their calling. So, how do you, or how have you in the past, just said, hey, I know my family did this, or know that these were expectations, or maybe this was a pattern. It doesn't have to be something like this big trauma thing, but I believe that this is the new pattern that God wants me to have. Like, how are you able to overcome some generational patterns in your life?
Oh, again, so many good things. And one, just going back real quick on what you were saying, we are a performance-driven society. And so it's easy to fall into that trap. Like you said, you didn't even know it. And then isn't it interesting how it's all about us? You
Mm.
started feeling like a failure. You started to like this. And it wasn't even about you. It was about, your son. But we all do that, and really recognizing these things. And it all goes back to identity, but and the generational, the patterns. Okay, well, I come from a huge family of fixers. We like fix it, we have a problem. I'll ask my mom how she feels. She starts to tell me out. Well, I'll call her and tell her something, and she'll go, well, I don't know what to tell you to do. I go, Mom, I didn't ask you to tell me what to do. I just telling you to like be here with me, feel this with me. And so I have to really to work on that. To work on
Amen, sister. I'm just like, oh my, yes, Mrs. Fixer Upper. Okay, go ahead.
yes, yes, yes. You got a problem, I want to fix it for you. And that it can be a good thing, but also we have to know how we feel about things. So that's very important. But the generational things, addictions especially, are in that line. It's easy once again. Start feeling like, oh well, this is why I do this. Okay, yeah, I can give you. When I started dealing with my own issues, there are a million reasons why I had ended up with a drinking problem. A million. Why I ended up with an eating disorder as a child. Look at this. It's amazing. It wasn't worse. However, we don't stop there. I said, okay, this is why, and now what? Let's clean this up.
Mm.
And let's be the chain breaker. Let's not speak to others as you were spoken to. Let's do things differently. And to do that, you really have to do the work with yourself. And so this is where it ends with me. It is not going farther. I am not going to um I'm going to give children a better foundation than what I had. And they're going to understand that spiritual warfare is a real thing. It exists. They're going to know how to fight that in God's word, the authority that we have. And so we look at what we needed, what we didn't get, and we discover and pray about a way to do things differently and to break those chains, and to realize that as much as we want our family to applaud us and cheer for us and get it, they might not.
Mm.
And that
So,
is hard. When you've changed your story and you know that you just want that one person to see it, they might not. You have to know that you alone are worth it. That you alone, God put here, He created, He has something for you. We are God's hands and feet, and that has to be our number one. And that helps us deal with the pain and the hurt that we do experience when the people that we love don't respect or don't see, all the good things that we've done. But yeah, we can be the one until you realize that it's in your generation. You do keep repeating things.
and that's one of the things that you talked about, was we have to deal to heal. So, can you go explain that just a little bit, especially as it pertains to getting sucked up in the family drama, the generational patterns? Someone's saying, okay, I want to do this, but how do I deal? How do I deal with it? That's the first part. So I can heal.
Yeah, exactly. It takes work. And there's so many things we have to go through. Like in the Change Your Story workshop, there is a curriculum. In this curriculum, God will speak to you. When you start asking these questions, God will speak to you and guide you through this. But some of the things you have to do, understanding, understanding the cognitive dissonance, knowing who you are as identity. Number two, understanding your backstory. How did you get where you are? Because if you're going to write a different story, you have to know how you got to where you are so you can make different choices. And that goes back to the generational things and the trauma and the drama. If you don't know how you got to where you are, well, then who's to say you're not going to keep repeating it? So we have to learn that and then move forward, rewiring your brain. Why do you think the way you do? Sometimes I'd say there's different kind of thoughts. Sometimes it's thought lies. We believe the same thing forever, but it never was true. We believed it because that's how we were raised, what we were spoken to. So many things in my life are like that. It affects how we show up in the world. And then there are the thoughts that come from memories and regrets and what ifs. I say we take every thought through the serenity prayer. Is this something you need to let go of? Why can't you let go? Why don't you want to? Is this something you can change? You have to take it through those prayers. Then about feelings, not letting them be the boss of your life. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge. That is how you break through so much of past trauma and change your story is through forgiveness. And it is such a process. Understanding spiritual warfare, learning how to become your own hero. Where are there areas of your life that you are still being your worst enemy? Are there areas of your life where you're not putting first? And then how purpose is the key to breakthrough. And so those are the topics that I lead people through. And in that, there's so much stuff. So we have to deal to heal, meaning we got to get all the junk out of the way. There are a million great books on binding your purpose. The truth is, it's inside us. We just have to discover it. And usually there's just all this stuff in the way. There's mindsets, there's faulty beliefs, there's perfectionism, there's insecurity, there's childhood trauma, there are just bad habits. And we have to so dealing means exactly what it says, dealing with all of that stuff. And you can't just do it. People would say, oh, just be happy. Well, don't you think I would if I could? Or how to deal with your thoughts. There's so many. I just wanted to crawl under the bed and put the blanket over my head. So, having a curriculum, having a set, let's start here. And when you start, it starts revealing other things. Like I said, when I asked a question, why do I do this? I didn't stop at the answer. When I had that answer, I'm like, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? You keep digging deeper and you get down and there is freedom there. It is the hardest thing you will ever do, but it frees you to be you.
I love that. And I love what you're saying. Just really dealing with all of the stuff that's laying on top of the purpose that really wants to come out. And I personally think that that leads to women, because my work is primarily with women, having so much misery because you, in all of your junk, is holding God in. That is exhausting. The purpose of God just pulsating, but there's addiction, there's family generational trauma, there's what you said, thought lies, there are old habits, there are just
Yes.
ways of thinking, beliefs, and it's compressing the purpose so it wants to be expressed. I want to be happy, but like you said, I can't even be happy. I got all of this stuff. And so just
Yeah.
knowing that women that we have issues, like the woman in the issue of blood, like we all have different issues. What would you say as we kind of wind down, do you think are the number one, number two, number three, number four issues that keep women stuck?
Oh, that's so good. And I will say too, it's easier not to deal with them, to put blankets over them. We do that with scrolling. That's a big new issue, because it's avoiding your feelings, how you really feel. You're distracting. You'll distract them. So, shopping, all these different things, whether it's alcohol, whether it's emotional eating, whether it is shopping, whether it is people, whatever it is distracting you from dealing with the real issues. And what I think the main things are about with women is we base who we think we are on what the world says we should be, not who God says we are. That we care so much about what everybody else thinks that we are always trying to explain ourselves instead of just be who God called you to be. And let that be enough. When you really understand that, it is so big. It is so much. And it takes all our energy. That's why I say purpose is the key to breakthrough, because it takes everything we've got. It's more powerful than all the other stuff. And also trying to be Wonder Woman, trying to do it all on our own. And I am also queen of that. Part of it is out of necessity. Other parts are just because when you grow up in a certain environment, it creates that pattern. And really understanding where you are and breaking free from that, and realizing that just because something's normal to us, it might not really be normal, you know? So a lot of things I grew up, I thought were normal, but they are so not normal. And so really just ask yourself why you believe the things you do. Does it line up with God's word? But I think just to sum it up, trying to please others, trying to be everything to everybody, and not understanding who we are and really how powerful God created us to be.
I love that. And really what women want is they want to know, hey, how is it that I can take this step? So what would you say to the woman who's listening and she fears rejection? She is like, oh, I want to do all of this, but I'm scared of what my parents are going to say, my family members, my spouse, my friends. Man, I'm scared of myself. She's scared of rejection. And what she really needs is some kind of bold steps that she can take to get her out of stuck mode, and into real you mode, not recovery mode, where she begins
Yes.
action and live the purpose for her life. What would you say to her?
Well, we got to get over the rejection thing, because you will be rejected. That's just the way it is. I had a folder when I read my first book. When I was submitting my first book to agencies, I got so many rejections. I finally had a folder called Soon to Be Sorry. And it was like 67 rejections in there. And it's like, when you understand that God has something for you and it's what you're supposed to do, the rejections, you have to know it's not who you are. It's a rejection because guess what? I look back at it, I didn't have a good query letter. I thought it was great. And it was great from going from nothing to that, but it wasn't where it needed to be. And so asking yourself, okay, well, can I learn anything from this rejection? Is there any truth in it? And letting that help you grow, and being able in the wrong ones in general, God's bigger. God is bigger. So we have to know ourselves and our purpose so much that rejection doesn't stop us. But we do, like I said, listen, we ask God questions about it. When things don't go when I'm working on something and it's not going well, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a job situation, whatever it is, the first thing I'll do is sit down and say, okay, God, what is my part of this? Did I do anything? Did I do anything to cause this rejection? Did I do anything? Should I have seen? Is there something I missed that I should have seen? Asking the right questions, and then what can I learn from it? And then really giving it to God, asking it, and moving on. We can't be so thin-skinned that we let every rejection hurt us, or we won't go anywhere. That's why people don't go anywhere. They're scared of rejection. And I get it. It does not feel good. I don't like it. But it's easy to stay in the familiar, even if we don't like it. So basically, you got to make a choice what character you want to play and go with it. If you want to stay in the victim mode, I'm not fulfilled, I'm not this, but you don't want to try anything new, because you will fall. Most people, at least, you will stumble, you will fall. But the more you do it, the better you get, and the less rejection. My last book was an Amazon bestseller in 5 different categories. That didn't happen because I did it right the first time at all. And so we just have to keep on moving forward, and we do that with God's strength and in wisdom, and getting wiser with each rejection.
I love that. And so you said so many great things here. Number one, we have to make sure, like you said, that we deal to heal. And I love what you
Yes.
said about, hey, like, don't be in recovery mode, be in real you mode. This is what God really speaks to the real you, where you don't stay stagnant and you don't stay stuck. And then I love what you said about making sure that we are not Wonder Woman, because the woman who does everything by herself will be doing bad by herself. And then you just brought it down to, hey, listen, we pray and we ask and we seek. Don't just wait for information, go for the information. You need to make sure that you are doing the research and that you're doing the work. And then to that woman, just like you said, who is dealing with the pain of possibly being rejected, you said, number one, it's going to happen. That's okay. Number two, it doesn't feel good. But number three, you wouldn't be where you are today if you were still waiting because of fear. So
Oh,
thank you.
yeah. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, just know it's not who you are. Rejection's not who you are. It's, I had a manuscript rejected, not me. We take it as ourselves. I didn't get a position. Okay. That is, we take everything so internally and so like it's all who we are. No, it's not who we are. And we have to be able to distinguish that and be determined that there's a lady that was probably 70 something in the Change Your Story workshop. She had been through program after program, faulty mindsets, all kind of things, addictions. And she was the oldest person there. And she was like, I am determined to get it right before I go to heaven. And we have to be determined and know that you're valuable and that you are loved according to God. Keep proclaiming those who God says you are.
That's just like so well said. We have to be determined. So, Kirstin, thank you so much for coming on here today. Where can our guests find more about you, find more about the Change Your Story workshop, and connect with you?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. You are amazing. What a blessing. Let's say the changeyourstoryworkshop.com. That's the changeyourstoryworkshop.com. Or you can go to kirstinleigh.com. And a lot of people spell that wrong. KIRSTINLEIGH.com. So yeah, I would love to, I don't want anyone living in the hell that I lived in for way too long. I know the hell not living up to your full potential is. I know the anguish. I know the frustration. I lived in it for so long. Whether it's because of an addiction or whether it's because you don't think you can, you don't have that confidence, whatever it is, God has something so much more. And so it is a gift that God trusted me with something so big, this program, because it's holistic. It is scientifically sound. Science has proven we can rewire our brain, which goes along with what God has said since the beginning of time. We are transformed by the renewing of our mind. And getting to have a little bit of being a part of people's journey and seeing them succeed it's amazing.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kirstin. And I just want to thank you all for joining us and hearing how you can change your story. And I cannot wait to see you next time. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.